Chapter 3 is called Take Me Out to the Ball Game. The twins led Jack and Annie to the entrance of the stadium. They all joined the crowd streaming into a huge round lobby. The room had marble walls and a ceiling lamp made of baseball bats. A sign over the ticket window said $1 general admission. Uh-oh, said Jack. He and Annie reached into the pockets of their uniforms. We don't have any money, said Annie. We don't either, said Otis. But we don't need it because Bat Boys! A tall man in a uniform rushed over to them. His badge said security guard. That's us, said Jack. You're late, said the guard. The manager of the visitors' clubhouse is looking everywhere for you. Get over there. Yes, sir. Jack knew just what the guard meant. The visitors' clubhouse was the place in the stadium where the out-of-town team prepared for the game. Wait, can our two friends come watch the game for free, said Annie. They helped us. Of course not, said the guard. Everyone has to pay unless they're part of the game. Come on. The guard headed to a turnstile. Sorry, we can't help you, Jack said to the twins. Don't worry, we always watch from Bedford Avenue, Otis said. We lie on the sidewalk. And peek under the gate, Olive whispered. We can see most of center field from there, said Otis, and a little bit of left field. Hey, Bat Boys, the guard shouted. Gotta go, said Jack. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a million, said Annie. She and Jack hurried through the turnstile and followed the guard. Then they crossed a ramp and headed into the ballpark. You're working for the Braves, the guard said. I'll get the clubhouse manager. Wait here. And he walked away. Oh, man, Jack breathed as he and Annie looked around. Compared to the Little League ballpark back home, Ebbets Field was huge. Fans were filling the stands. A band was playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. The breezy air smelled of roasting peanuts, hot dogs, and grilled onions. On the field, umpires in dark suits were talking to each other. Around the baseball diamond, team members were playing catch. The men all wore jerseys with blue letters that spelled Dodgers. Look at the Dodgers Bat Boys, said Annie. They're helping their team warm up. Those Bat Boys look twice our age, said Jack. I know, said Annie, but our caps must make everyone see us as teenagers, too. That's incredible, said Jack, smiling. He loved looking older. He loved working for a big league game. He loved the sights, sounds, and smells of Ebbets Field. The fans are really dressed up, said Annie. In the stands, the men and boys wore suits and hats. The men and girls wore dresses, jackets, and white gloves. Can you imagine dressing like that to go to a ball game? It was really different from Frog Creek. At the ballpark at home, grown-ups and kids wore jeans, shirts, and sweatpants. Jack noticed something else that was different from Frog Creek. Here, half the stands were filling up with mostly white people. The other half were filling up with mostly black people. At home, people of all colors sat together. Annie pointed to a black Dodgers player signing autographs on baseballs. Who is he? She said. Black fans were shouting and waving at the player. Reporters were trying to interview him. A photographer was taking pictures. I don't know, but he must be a big star, said Jack. Hey, Bat Boys, you're late, someone shouted. Jack and Annie whirled around. A short, wiry man was striding toward them. He must be the manager of the visitors' clubhouse, Jack thought. You've only got 40 minutes, the man roared. The Braves will be here any moment. Their trunks have just been delivered from the station. He pointed at the door of the clubhouse. Go inside and get to work. Yes, sir, said Jack and Annie. Without another word, they hurried inside the visitors' clubhouse, and they got to work. Chapter 3 is called Good Job, Boys. Jack and Annie knew exactly what to do. Jack felt like he'd been a bat boy all of his life. He hung his bag on a hook, and then he and Annie headed for the equipment trunks lined up near the door. They started with a trunk labeled Uniforms. They opened the lid. They pulled out white jerseys with red letters that spelled Braves. Together, they swiftly hung up all the uniforms in a row of lockers. They finished just as the Braves arrived. All the men laughed and joked with each other as they spilled into the clubhouse. No one spoke to Jack and Annie, though. In fact, no one even looked at them. Jack and Annie paid no attention to the team either. Their magic caps helped them know the rules. Bat Boys never bother the players. They never get in their way. Next, Jack opened an equipment trunk labeled Cleats and Helmets. He and Annie pulled out baseball shoes and batting gear. Now, if you remember, cleats are those little pointy things that are screwed into the bottom of their shoes, so it gives them better traction on the baseball field. They used rags to wipe everything off and then quickly lined up the shoes on benches. Jack and Annie hurried to a trunk labeled bats. Together, they pushed the trunk out of the visitors' clubhouse and toward the ball field. Yikes, look at the time, cried Annie. She pointed to a large clock over the scoreboard. We only have 20 minutes until the game starts. And lots more to do, said Jack. Full speed. They pushed the trunk over to the visitors' dugout under the stands. Here's a picture of them in the clubhouse opening the trunks. Then, racing against the clock, they flew through the rest of their jobs. Jack quickly unloaded bats from the trunk. He handed them to Annie. She placed them on the shelves of a bat rack inside the dugout. They rushed back to the visitors' clubhouse and unloaded another trunk. They pulled out a first aid kit, shin guards, a catcher's mitt and mask, and boxes of chewing gum. They carried all these things to the Braves' dugout. By now, the home team, the Brooklyn Dodgers, had left the field. The visiting Boston Braves had started their warm-up. The noise in the ballpark was deafening. The stands were full. Hey, Bat Boys, a girl yelled. Get us an autograph ball, a boy yelled. Jack looked up. Kids were shouting at them from the stands. An autograph ball, please, please. Sorry, yelled Annie. Jack shook his head. They both knew the rule. Bat Boys never do favors for fans. Jack and Annie hurried back into the clubhouse. They unloaded towels from a trunk. They filled jugs with water from a sink. They packed baseballs into a canvas bag, and then they carried everything to the dugout and put it in all the right places. Uniforms, cleats, shin guards, masks, said Annie. Water, first aid kit, bats, towels, baseballs, chewing gum, said Jack. Anything else? Nope, we did it, said Annie. Looking at the clock, it was 2:25. The game would start in 5 minutes. Good job, boys, said the clubhouse manager as he passed by. Thanks, said Annie. Jack and Annie quickly took their seats in the bench in the dugout. The Boston Braves players sat near them, looking tense. Some scowled and folded their arms. Others chewed gum or tapped their feet. A voice came over the loudspeaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem. The crowd stood. The players stepped out of the dugout and placed their baseball caps over their hearts. Oh no, thought Jack. He and Annie couldn't take their caps off. If they did, everyone would see them as young kids, and they would see Annie as a girl. Annie took Jack's arm. She pulled him back into a shadowy area inside the dugout. There, they placed only their hands over their hearts. Jack desperately hoped none of the players would turn around and notice them. A man sang the Star-Spangled Banner in a rich voice. Do you remember this song? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? Jack nervously kept his eyes on the flag flapping in the breeze. Hurry, hurry, he thought. Finally, the singer sang the last lines. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? The national anthem was over. The players all put their caps back on. Play ball, roared an umpire at home base. Phew, Jack said to Annie, and they stepped out from the dugout. Noise filled the park. Fans were cheering, horns honking, bells clanging. See ya, said Annie. Yep, said Jack. They both knew exactly what to do. Annie was in charge of bats. She ran to the batting circle. She knelt on the ground, ready to pick up the bats the players dropped at home plate. Jack was in charge of baseballs. He handed the canvas bag over to a stool nearest to the edge of the diamond. He sat down. A strong breeze gusted over Ebbets Field. Jack pulled his cap down firmly on his head, and then he leaned forward to watch the game. His heart was racing. Now the hard part begins, he thought.